Well, I'm very much looking forward to being here and sharing with you all tonight. I put a lot of time and energy and thought into what I would share with you, and then about 5 o'clock tonight, I scrapped everything. But there's been some things on my mind lately. One is my children. I've got an amazing, incredible wife. She's way better than what I deserve, and we've got 4 incredible kids, 3 girls and a boy. Our baby boy's just 3 months old. And having kids, I've learned a lot. You know, it's been fun interacting with them, and a lot of times they'll say something and I'll think, I remember being that age, and you're full of it. But other times I'm just impressed, right? Kids are so impressive, just incredible little creatures, and my kids especially. But my kids, they do these. In fact, there's an experiment I think you all should do, right? Kids, they have this incredible ability for spatial awareness. It's uncanny, and I think if somebody wanted to, they could probably get a grant to study it, the way that children's minds process their spatial awareness, right? Like, it's almost superhuman. And if you wanted to do the experiment yourself, real simple to do, just get a couple of kids. If you don't have any kids, you need like some puppies or a bag of candy and just go down to the park. Actually, don't do that. We in no way advocate the abduction of children. And we'll have to get our legal in to take a look at this, I think. But get a couple of kids, sit them down in front of you, and then to really decipher their ability to pick up on spatial awareness, bring in one cupcake, set it down in front of them, and then cut it right in the middle. And they will tell you for sure which side is bigger. I mean, I'm talking a fraction of a millimeter, a hair's width difference. They're going to say, no, this side's bigger, that side's bigger. They can just tell. It's uncanny. Another experiment that could be fun to do is juice or milk, something they want to drink. Go ahead and fill up one cup and then pour into the other one and try. It's almost like you're a mad scientist. You're filling cups back and forth, trying to figure out. And you get them if you have one drop different, they're going to tell you. It's just unreal the spatial awareness ability that these kids have. And so it's kind of fun to play around with that. But every time my kids, they always say the same thing. Right? There's 3 words that they always use whenever something like this happens, and the 3 words are, that's not fair. Every time without fail. Now my kids are getting real tired at telling me that, because they know every time they do, they know I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say, life's not fair. It's not. Life's not fair. And I want them to understand that life's not fair. I want them to understand that in some ways, they've got it so good, so much better than so many other people. And in other ways, yeah, they're on the losing end, and that's okay, because life's not fair, and it probably never will be. For example, a great example of this is me and my wife, right? I'm this goofy-looking guy, and I've got this like rock star, super hot wife. I don't know how it works. I'm just grateful that life's not fair. Which for her it's the losing end, because she's a rock star and super hot, married to me. But again, life's not fair. There's a story that I'm reminded of. A guy named Chris. Chris was born into some circumstances that weren't very fair. And his story is really powerful. I'm going to share it with you. If you know the story, that's awesome. What I'm going to share with you is a little different than what you might have seen in a movie. This is the story that he wrote in his book. Chris's story is a sad one. He was born to a single mother. His biological father left before he was born. His mother entered into a relationship soon after he was born with a man who was abusive. His stepfather was verbally and physically abusive to him and his mother. He was taken out of that situation and placed in foster care. That was probably the best thing that happened in his whole childhood, was getting put in foster care. It gave him a chance to meet his maternal uncles. He had 3 maternal uncles, and one of those was a man named Henry Gardner. And Henry was a great influence for Chris. Taught him about responsibility. Probably his only positive male role model in his youth was this uncle. Now, the hurt keeps rolling in. At age 9, Henry dies tragically. He drowns in the Mississippi. And Chris spends the rest of his childhood really just taking lumps. But life's not fair. When Chris is finally of the age, he decides to enlist in the U.S. Navy, probably because of the example of his uncle, who himself served in the Navy and told of these incredible experiences he had, these adventures that he had. So Chris gets into the Navy. He's going to go have some adventures of his own. And he winds up getting in and working in medicine, working with the Navy in a medical capacity. He meets some doctors one of whom has a pretty big impact on him, Dr. Ellis. And Chris starts working with Dr. Ellis, and when he gets out of the Navy, he goes to work in a lab for Dr. Ellis, running a lab, which is a great experience, especially in his path towards medical school. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay very well. And Chris had a big surprise come when his girlfriend gets pregnant, and he's going to have his first son. And he's so excited to have that opportunity to have his son. But he's faced with this dilemma of not making very much money running the lab. So Chris decides, okay, I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to be that man. I'm going to be that male role model. I'm going to take charge, take responsibility. I'm going to do what I know I should. And so he gives up that goal of medical school, and he gets a job selling medical equipment. Actually, he invests all of his savings into buying medical equipment that he could go then sell. And the equipment was this brand new X-ray machine that had just come out. State-of-the-art, top of the line, the best that money can buy, and it was better than the X-ray machines that were currently out on the market. It seemed like a great investment. And Chris invests his money and takes these machines and starts selling, going to office, trying to sell this equipment to these doctors. The problem is that the equipment wasn't that much better than what they already had. And with the economy the way it was at the time, they couldn't justify the purchase. It was slow going. He didn't have a lot of sales. The lack of sales meant lack of income, which put a lot of strain on his relationship with his girlfriend. After a little while of this, she started to get real frustrated with their situation. She's having to work doubles at the restaurant where she was a waitress, and he's out trying to sell equipment and not having any luck. Well, one day he's walking down the street, going from one office to the next, and he sees a guy getting out of a red Ferrari. And he walks up to the guy and he says, "Man, what do you do? I just got to know what it is that you do." And the guy says, "Well, I'm a stockbroker, and I work here in San Francisco. I work in this office here." And he says, "Can anyone do that?" And the guy says, "Yeah." The guy's name was Bob Bridges. He said, "Yeah, anybody can do that. As long as they have good work ethic and good people skills, that's really all it takes." And he says, "I'm going to do that." Chris says, "I am going to do that. I'm going to be a stockbroker." He goes home, goes to talk to his girlfriend, tell her the great news, right? So exciting. He's going to be a stockbroker. And this reminds me of a time when I was really excited about something and told my wife, and she did not respond the way I thought she would. So she'd been out of town, and while she was gone, I bought an Xbox. And I thought she'd be so excited. I had this brand new entertainment system for our home. She was not excited. And Chris's girlfriend wasn't excited about his decision either. In fact, she decided she was gonna leave, and she was gonna take his son with her. He didn't want that to happen. He chased after her, tried to get his son back. In the scuffle, she fell. Police were called. He was taken to jail. Now, she didn't press charges, but they had him in jail, and they ran his name and found he had some unpaid parking tickets because money was tight, and that wasn't a priority, paying those tickets. So they kept him in jail for 10 days. He gets out of jail, goes home. His apartment's empty. She's gone. And he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have any clothes. It's just the casual clothes he had on. But this guy, Bob Bridges, had set up an internship with him, or an interview for an internship with one of the local stock brokerages there. So I can't imagine what it must have been like for him to stand there in those clothes, doesn't have a suit, doesn't have anything that he can go down for this interview, but he goes anyways. Goes to the interview, and he's in this room with all these other guys dressed in their nice suits, young guys, sharp guys that did not just get out of jail, who were about to interview for this position. And I can't imagine how stressful that must have been looking at the competition that he had. But he goes in there and nails the interview. And if you've ever seen the movie, there's a great line there where the interviewer says, "I really like you, but how can I offer you this position? What would everyone else say if I hired you and you didn't have a shirt?" And he says that, "I must be wearing some really nice pants." And he gets the internship, and he gets it. But now he's got a whole new set of problems. He's a single father without a place to live. He's got his kid with him, and he's got an unpaid internship, and he's got to make ends meet. So Chris starts doing the absolute insane work of getting up in the morning, getting his son to daycare, getting over to the internship, dialing for dollars as much as he can, leaving, selling medical equipment, then getting his son and getting to the shelter in time to stay in a homeless shelter at night. Okay? He figured out if he didn't put the phone down in between dials, if he just kept the handset in his hand, he could punch in numbers, hit the hang up button, and then punch in the next number, and he could make more calls in less time. And so that's what he did. And he worked his heart out, worked his guts out. And every day he'd get up and he'd go and he'd work. And there were nights that they'd get in line for the shelter and there wouldn't be any room. And he'd wind up finding some place to crash for the night. You know, one of the most powerful scenes in the movie, and truthfully in his life, was a night he spent in a public restroom with his son, just sleeping on the ground there. But he kept working, he kept going, he kept driving, he kept pushing. He didn't give up, he didn't quit, he didn't say, woe is me. He didn't say, that's not fair, because he knew that life's not fair. He sold whatever equipment he could in the time that he had. He had people asking him all the time, hey, how come you're carrying around all your stuff with you? You know, because he couldn't leave his bags anywhere. So he'd carry these bags around, his extra clothes with him, to and from work. And he'd just tell people, oh, I just got back from vacation, or I just got back, I was on a trip here, I was doing this there. Just lying to people. And he did whatever it took to win. At the end, he gets the internship. He gets the paid job. And he transforms his life. He winds up going on to open his own brokerage, is able to do some incredible philanthropic things, motivational speaking. He started an organization that's geared towards helping young men that are in similar positions to him that don't have a good male role model, to give them that role model in their life. An incredible man with an incredible story. His book was published in 2006 called The Pursuit of Happiness. And his other claim to fame is that when they decided that they were going to cast somebody to play him in the movie, they picked Will Smith. So it's a pretty cool story, and an incredible thing, really. And there's some lessons that I take from it. If you ever watch the movie, it's really kind of depressing. Because the whole movie, it's like, what else could possibly go wrong for this guy? And as soon as you ask that question, something else goes wrong. And sometimes that's how our lives are. Sometimes we get frustrated and we want to quit, we want to give up, we want to say, that's not fair. That's not fair that, you know, my loved one died. That's not fair that this job that I was depending on went away. I got laid off. The company got bought out and my job's gone now. A lot of times in life, life's not fair. But what Chris did that impressed me so much was his focus. He was able to maintain focus throughout the entire ordeal. And because he maintained focus, because he kept his vision where it needed to be, he was able to eventually reach his goal. So here's the tips that I took away. Number one is keep sight of your dream, right? Get a dream, get a big dream, and live in that dream. Live in it, right? Even if where you're at right now, it seems so far away that you could never get it. It doesn't matter. You've got to live in that dream. You know, we taught my daughter, my 5-year-old, to ride a bike the other day. And I was out there running next to her, and I'm holding on the back of her seat. I'm holding on the back of her shirt. I'm holding on to the handlebars. I'm trying everything I can. I'm running next to her, and she keeps veering to the left or veering to the right. You know, she tries to accelerate or brake, and she just keeps almost crashing. Thank goodness I was there, and I saved her. She didn't fall. If she had fallen, I think she probably would have given up. But she didn't fall. But she just couldn't figure it out. And my wife's sitting over on the swing watching this whole thing happen. And she comes up to save the day and give us some sage advice. She says she keeps looking down. She keeps looking down at the handlebars. Make sure they're straight. You want the tire nice and straight. And every time she does, she'll forget to accelerate. She'll slow down too much, or she'll lose her balance and go left or right. And she says she needs to be looking up to where she's going, not right there. I mean, that's a good thing, right? You want to make sure the handlebars are straight. You want to make sure the tire's pointed the direction you're going, but you got to look up to where you want to go. And we said, okay, let's do that. So my wife ran alongside of her, and I went up ahead, and I said, I'm yelling to her, hey, come here, just like when you got little kids, you're trying to get them to look at the camera, and you're doing every dumb thing you can think of to get them to look over there, and I'm just trying to get her to look at me. But it worked. She looked up at me, she quit looking down at the handlebars, and she started riding her bike. And that's what you got to do with your life. I mean, yeah, you want to look down at the things that are happening right now. I got a bill that's due tomorrow. I got to figure out a way to pay it. Sure, That's something you want to deal with right now. You want to look down at your handlebars. But you can't take your long-term vision off of where you're going, off of your dream. So get a dream, live in that dream. Connect that dream to the work that you have to do right now. You get home from your 9-to-5 job, and everyone else in the world wants to sit back on the couch and watch Netflix. The new show that's on, they're going to binge watch TV, they're going to do, and that's all you want to do. I know. I get home from work, I'm tired. All I want to do is sit in the chair and watch TV and close my eyes and let all of the cares of the world just drift away. But you can't do that. You've got to connect your dream, your big dream, to the work that needs to get done, so that when you get home from work, your desire to work harder, to do more on building that dream outweighs your desire to sit back and watch Netflix. So get a big dream, focus on the dream, connect the work that it takes to get that dream to your desire, so that you'll take those steps right now, even when it's hard. And the last thing you got to do is persevere. Because life is going to not be fair. And bad things are going to happen. There's going to be trials. So don't be surprised and caught off guard and upset when it happens. Expect that there's going to be trials. Plan for the trials. And when those trials come, that's okay. You knew that was going to happen. And all you have to do is say, well, life's not fair. And that's okay. And get back up and move forward. That's what Chris did, and that's the lesson that I took away from his story. It's an incredible book. I mean, if you watch the movie, that's great. It's entertaining. Will Smith does a fantastic job, but read the book. There's so much more to it, to his story, to the things that he had to overcome, what he had to deal with. Okay, and I promise you, I wish I could. There was some way to just ingrain in your minds this truth that if you want to win big, you have to be resilient and perseverant, because bad things will happen. Don't give up. Don't give in. Never surrender. Thank you so much.